And let me... It's my wife. I gotta take it, it's my wife. Hi, I'm doing an event. Can you wait? Because he wanted to, that's all. Thank you. I've got to go. I'll call you later. I'll call you later.
Senator, I'll take it.
Okay. Well, it's great to be back here in Genesee County. As you know, I visit every county every year. I've been to Genesee County a minimum of 23 times, right? It's my 23rd year as senator, but more than that because I've come back in different instances. Although this is my first time coming to you as majority leader. But I promised when I became majority leader that I would continue to pay a lot of attention to the local issues that concern the local folks and the grassroots stuff, and that's what I've been doing. And I'm just going to talk about a few of the things we were able to do for Genesee County in the last year. The city of Batavia got a $334,000 water grant. I was glad to help secure that for the city from the Northern Border Regional Commission needed to place 90-year-old water pipes. We cut through red tape and got the Fish and Wildlife easement to add stamp utility service. We're going to talk a lot about stamp in a few minutes. We got that federal easement, so now they can install the needed water lines along Route 63. When anyone wants to locate here, including Plug Power, they want to make sure there's adequate water. Those in economic development know that that's one of the first things people look at, and we need to have it. We opened the Western New York Veterans Cemetery in Pembroke. I was up here for that. That was last year, right? December. It was cold, I remember. I was honored to stand with our Western New York veterans who did a great job pushing for it, and we finally, praise God, got it. I've spoken with Secretary McDonough, our new Veterans Secretary, about its importance, and he's committed to continuing the construction till full completion. And in the American Rescue Plan, I worked very, very hard to see that our localities got money. You all know here in Genesee County, when you send it to Albany, you never see it again. And I got Albany everything they needed, more than $12 billion. For this itself, but I didn't want to give them the local money. So when we wrote the formula, as majority leader, I had some say in this. We gave the counties direct money. So Genesee County, Madam Stein, Chairwoman Stein, got $11 million, and I know you're spending it well, because you're. Thank you. The towns in Genesee County, we have a couple of town supervisors here, got $6 million directly. We got $32,000 for Genesee County Airport, although I told a lady there when I flew my little plane in, she didn't know. So you got to get the word out about all this, please. But in any case, we also got, and we have superintendent of the Alabama School District and a few others, we got $11 million for our school districts. Really needed during COVID because schools were under such duress, they still are. And $9 million for Genesee Community College. Half of went to the kids who were having a rough time paying their tuitions, and half went to the community college itself. So that's what that's some of the things we were able to accomplish. And now I've finished my news conference and I'm ready to go back to Okay. Now, we have a long list of people here, and I want to acknowledge them, and I thank whenever I come to Genesee County, there's a great turnout of our officials, and I thank them for coming. Let me just mention who's here. Of course, we have Shelley Stein. She was chairwoman of the Genesee County Legislature a long time ago, and she is again. And she's legislator for Leroy, and I think of you all the time when I'm in Washington, because, of course, Shelley came down when we found that old picture of Henry Clay that was in a schoolhouse, was it? Yes, that was in the Leroy schoolhouse. It is hanging on a very prominent wall in Washington, D.C. And Tom Carper, I digress, but it's interesting. Tom Carper, he was walking by, and I knew he was a direct descendant of Senator from Delaware. He was a direct descendant of Henry Clay, and when you saw his face, it sort of looked like the face in the picture. Isn't that funny? That was fun. Okay, so we also have Gordon Dibble, who always comes to our events, county legislator for Pembroke and Darien, Chad Klotzbach, legislator for Alabama and Oakfield, and Rob Crossan, our town of Alabama supervisor. We also have from Economic Development Steve Hyde, who does a great job and is wearing a wonderful Bills mask. Go Bills, they look good. They look far better than any other team that has New York in its name this year. Those Giants look terrible. I can't believe why they don't draft offensive linemen. And for those of us lamenting New York teams, the Yankees lost their 4th game last night. I stayed up and watched. Terrible. But they won 13 in a row. We also have Mark Massey. He's the Senior Vice President of Operations for Genesee County Economic Development Center. Chris Swazi, the Vice President for Business and Workforce of GCEDC. Craig Yunker, a member of the board, and he was the chair. Where are you, Craig? There you are. Did a great job as chair of the legislature. And the legislature, I think, as long as I've been senator, has always been Republican. As long as I can remember, I've always been Democrat, but we've always worked together well in a bipartisan way, and I very much appreciate that under Shelley and under Craig and under others. And we have Jim Krensick, Director of Marketing. We also have Matt Landers, who does a great job as Genesee County Manager. Philippe Boltramari, he's the Planning Director. John Fiskus, who's Superintendent of Oakfield, Alabama Schools. So we have a lot of elected officials here, and I'm very pleased that they have come. Chris, can I give you this? Okay. So this is my 2nd time visiting the Stamp campus, and I have to admire how perfectly suited this site is to build out Western New York's tech hub goals. So I'm here today to announce a 2-pronged plan to attract new jobs and new tenants to this campus and to Western New York. Because if we become a manufacturer of high-end chips, and if we become a center of hydrogen and hydrogen fuel and hydrogen cells, that will affect jobs in Buffalo, Rochester, and all of Western New York. It'll be a great job magnet right here, right between, in Genesee County, right between Rochester, about equidistant between between Rochester and Buffalo. So let me talk about, so it's a 2-pronged approach to attract new jobs and tenants to this campus right here in Genesee County and jobs in Western New York. So the two are, one, Samsung's trying to land Samsung's $17 billion chip fab, and 2, the first tenant of Stamp, Plug Power, building North America's largest green hydrogen fuel cell plant here. Those are 2 major, major things that are happening. So, and what we are trying to do is bring critical, not only to get money to manufacture chips, I'll talk about that, but to bring critical infusions of federal support to make Stamp a domestic hub for new semiconductor and clean energy industries, both. So it's a 2-pronged approach. So first, I'm not just doubling, I'm not just tripling, I'm quadrupling down on my efforts to secure new semiconductor manufacturing tenants here at Stamp. I was the author of legislation that will put close to $50 billion so we can make our own chips here, the advanced semiconductor chips. If we don't do it, our national security is at risk and our economy is at risk. And if they're all made overseas, in Taiwan and in China, we're going to lose. Right now, many of our auto companies are on slow production or no production because they don't have these chips. And we do the great research for them here. In fact, some of the most fine research is being done in Albany, where both Intel and IBM are doing the most advanced research in America on the next generation of chips. But we also have to manufacture them. And that's what we want to do here at Stamp. And I've told the top brass at Intel, Micron, and of course Samsung that Stamp is an ideal location. And of course I will use my clout as majority leader once we get Stamp passed, and once we get the chip manufacturing dollars passed into law. They've already passed the Senate. I will use my clout to try and bring one of those companies right here to Genesee County. And as author of the law, I should have some say in that. So we fought long and hard in the Senate to negotiate and pass USICA, the U.S. Innovation and Competition Act, in June. Now, it used to be called the Endless Frontiers Act. I like that. I'm sort of digressing today, but it's a nice day. It's the first day of September. We called it the Endless Frontier Act because Vannevar Bush, the Secretary of the Army, right after we won World War II, said America must invest in science. It's the next frontier for jobs and economic dominance. It's the endless frontier, he said, the endless frontier. So we called it the Endless Frontier Act, but too many people who read about it thought it was about covered wagons or something like that. So we changed the name to USICA, United States Innovation and Competition Act. And that's what officially passed the Senate. But it includes a historic $52 billion in federal incentives for semiconductor manufacturing and research that are critical to Samsung and other companies that all want to expand their operations here in the United States. And of course, it's critical to STAMP. We're working now closely with the House to pass into law the $52 billion in semiconductor incentives that I shepherded through the Senate. The President's supportive, he'll sign it, and we will get it through the House this fall. Samsung's new facility would help establish New York as a global hub for the semiconductor industry, and it would make STAMP a prime location for future development. And I confirmed directly with STAMP officials just very recently that STAMP is in the running. No final decisions have been made, and after many calls to Samsung's top brass, sometimes with a translator on the phone because the CEO speaks Korean and I don't. Didn't get that one in high school. But in any case, after a lot of calls showing them that STAMP was the right place for them and showing them they'd have the majority leader on their side in terms of getting an allocation, they came and visited and saw it for themselves. They paid a visit. They saw firsthand how how tailor-made STAMP is to hosting large semiconductor fab right here. The second prong, and that's why Andy is here, Andy Marsh, of Plug Power, we're launching over a $9.5 billion push to secure new hydrogen investments through the recently passed bipartisan infrastructure bill. That passed the House, the Senate, and we're also including more money for hydrogen and green hydrogen during the upcoming negotiations in the budget reconciliation bill. There are two major parts to this. Already in the bill that passed the Senate is $8 billion to create 4 hydrogen hubs in the country. There's no better place than Western New York in terms of hydrogen. One, because Plug Power is here, and they're the leading hydrogen fuel cell company in the country. Just over in Rochester, they're building a gigafactory that'll employ, I think, 380 people, do I recall?
380 people, exactly.
I somehow remember those numbers. Job numbers, I always remember. 380 people. It will be the largest fuel cell manufacturing component place in the country. So they're doing that there. We also have a great tradition here in Western New York of hydrogen research. GM, unfortunately, several years ago closed their hydrogen fuel cell research when they were having really bad times in Honeoye Falls. But a lot of the technology and a lot of the knowledge is still there and here in Western New York. So we have a good chance to become that hub. The second thing we want to do is provide a production tax credit. There's an investment tax credit for people who buy the fuel cells. Plug Power, you know who their clients are. Places like Amazon and Walmart,
BMW.
They all need these. They need these forklifts when you go to one of those big Amazon plants to lift all the stuff back and forth. And they're buying them right here from Plug Power, which is a company I've had a long relationship with and helped save them at one point.
Absolutely.
And urged them to come here to Rochester, and here they are, to the Rochester Finger Lakes area, and here they are. But the second thing So there's an investment tax credit that goes to making them, but there's also that goes to when you buy them. But there's also a production tax credit that goes to the companies that make the fuel. And in the reconciliation bill, because we didn't do tax credits in the bipartisan bill, is, I forgot the exact number of jobs, the cost. Well, it's in your, it's a multi-billion-dollar production tax credit. It's in your release, and I can't find, since I'm freelancing here, I'm not reading the great words that Christopher Zeltman gave me. Okay, I'll get the number. Oh, let me just say a few things. The credit will lower the cost to make green hydrogen by up to $3 a kilogram. That means more customers for green hydrogen, more demand for the fuel here made at Stamp, and more demand for the Plug Power jobs here in Western New York. Every 15 tons per day in additional green hydrogen fuel production means an additional 20 to 25 jobs. That's every 15 tons per day. Currently, the Stamp facility is slated to make 45 tons per day. But Plug Power's goal is to make 500 tons a day. So that means 700 additional jobs. So that is very important. Because of the ITC, the investment tax credit that's already on the books that we got to extend in 2022 when it expires, Plug Power's grown from 80 employees in 2010 to over 800 today, plus the additional 445 that are going to be added between Stamp here and the new plant, the Gigafactory over in Rochester. Okay, now, it's $8 billion to establish 4 more regional clean hub centers. I mentioned that, but how much is it? How much did we put into the?
Depend on how much the production is. So we don't have.
Okay, it's a multi-billion-dollar tax credit for production. So if we can do those two things, if Western New York, Buffalo, Rochester, Batavia County, Genesee County, Batavia, can become centers of 2 of the most important modern products we have in the 21st century, advanced computer chips, semiconductors, and hydrogen fuel cells, which are the future because they're green, and the only thing they produce is water. That's their waste product, so to speak, which is not a waste product at all, unlike regular combustion engines and other engines which produce carbon dioxide as their waste product. But if we can become the center of even one of these 2, let alone 2, this will be one of the greatest shots in the arm that this economy has ever had here in Western New York. And I am pledging the people here today, the people here in Genesee County, in Buffalo, in Rochester, that I'm going to do everything I can to see us become not just one, but both of these centers as majority leader. For that, let me call on the great leader. He is hardworking, he is dedicated, he's smart, and he's always smiling. I think he smiles in his sleep. Andy Marsh.
Well, thank you, Senator.
Good to see you.
Good to see
Thank
you.
you.
Hey, Jerry, do you want to take the role of holding my papers when I'm done each sheet?
You don't have as many papers.
I don't have as many, and my font's
I got a
bigger.
lot of papers here.
So first, I like to thank Senator Schumer. You know, the senator supported clean, green energy before it was popular. He had the insight to promote legislation that has helped grow the wind, solar, and fuel cell industries in the U.S. And now, the U.S. is developing programs to address climate change. The senator has led the efforts to not only address climate change, but I think this is really important, but support job creation in the industry in the United States, and more important, here in New York, and I guess more important here in Genesee County today.
Right.
And obviously, as the majority leader, he's led the effort. And the bipartisan, as the senator was talking about, Infrastructure and Job Acts, is over $1 billion for electrolyzers, for research, demonstration, commercialization, and also reducing the cost and increasing the reliability. So why are electrolyzers important? Because they create hydrogen from green electricity, a zero carbon footprint. It's going to be a big market. Experts like McKinsey, Bloomberg, Goldman talk about hydrogen being 23% of world's energy by 2050. It'll do everything from plane, trains, and automobiles to heating your home for industrial processes. That's what hydrogen can do. And now the punchline, I think the senator talked about it. When you come here 16 months from now, this site will be the largest green hydrogen site in the world. I was just in Brussels yesterday, and this site's bigger than what they're doing in Europe. 45 tons a day will create 60 to 75 jobs. But down the road, my buddy Dan here, who's been building the Rochester factory, there'll be over 380 jobs created, producing the most critical component, the electrolyzer stacks. We'll not only be doing manufacturing there, but Dan's one of those GM guys that I hired, and he built a company that Plug hired, and now he's building the biggest green electrolyzer products in the world.
GM's going to regret leaving because we're going to do a lot better than them.
And as I said, Senator, without your vision, we wouldn't be here. And there's more. The act also includes, and this is really important, we talked about semiconductors. We have the same issue in hydrogen. The bill allows $500 million for green hydrogen manufacturing and recycling programs to help develop a robust supply chain. This is critical to Plug, and other New York companies will benefit from the proposal. And as the senator says, there's over $9.5 billion. Now the senator was talking also about reconciliation. It will promote the tax credit for not only fuel cells, but for green hydrogens. Programs like that really encourage Plug Power by 2025 to build the first nationwide green hydrogen network. This will produce 500 tons of hydrogen a day. That's equivalent to 1 million gallons of gasoline. This will create all sorts of new jobs in New York, from research to manufacturing. He's also driving tax credits for green hydrogen and fuel cells. That'll be critical. Senator, what I really like about the bill is that they encourage also private investment.
Yep.
We haven't seen each other for a while, but Plug raised $5 billion in the public markets in the last year to support the expansion of the company. Investors support U.S. clean, green energy companies because of thoughtful policies that are promoted by Senator Schumer. The senator knows the right governmental investments will drive the right private investments, and know that they will have a huge multiplying effect in creating jobs. And Senator, you got my numbers all wrong. I have 1,700 employees now, and over 1,000 in New York.
We love that.
Yeah. And more to come. And then maybe I'll finish my speech if I can turn a page.
You needed some help with
know,
those papers.
I did. And I really feel fortunate to have a great senator like Senator Schumer. I've lived in 8 states. You have a leader here. I look at it and I think you heard it today. He takes care of the citizens like a local assemblyman, but has a global vision that makes the U.S. and New York a better place. I would once again like to thank Senator Schumer. And Senator, I hope you come back here 16 months from now when this plant is up and operating, and you can talk to all my employees. So thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Andy. Okay, now we have Steve Hyde. He's done a great job as the executive, what's your title?
President CEO.
President and CEO of the Genesee County Economic Development. And really, he's been involved in so many different issues here. That's great.
Senator, it's flattering to have you here again. 1 year ago today we stood here on a sunny day. It was July 31st, and we were talking about federal policy, the CHIPS Act at the time,
hadn't passed,
which became Endless Frontiers, which became USICA, because of your tenacity and support and belief in the success of we have to bring back semiconductor manufacturing to the States. And we sat here and talked about Stamp positioned as a great site to be a hub for that in the future. But you know what? We were hopeful then. Now you fast forward to today. And here we are, a commitment made by CEO Andy Marsh and the Plug Power team that to be an anchor at the Stamp site, to get one of those prongs for hydrogen production in a renewable space. And we're also ushers in new technology manufacturing here in this region, high quality jobs for our kids. And the beauty of this today is the two-prong that's outlined is we have several projects in our sales pipeline on the semiconductor side, on the renewable manufacturing side, and we have a commitment of a fabulous anchor company to come and grow and create great jobs for our community. So what else can you say when you have federal policy from a stalwart leader of the Senate driving benefits for New Yorkers, for our region, and then you have a company like Andy Marsh and the Plug Power team that have been absolutely remarkable to work with, have made commitments to advance the infrastructure at this site, to make this site not only ready for them, but for semiconductor companies and other renewable manufacturers to come in and to be their neighbor. Now that sounds like a partnership. Outstanding policy, outstanding site, outstanding projects, and what does that do? It creates a future of new technology manufacturing, which is what Stamp was designed to do.
Exactly.
We thank you, Leader, for all your great work and support and coming today. And Andy as well. Thank you so much.
Keep up the good work. All of you who work for Genesee County Economic Development and all the legislators who support it, they really are terrific. I deal with lots of economic development agencies across the state, and they are great. They're great. Okay, we'll first take questions on this topic.
When you were in the region in June, you were talking about Rochester, Buffalo, sort of putting together a joint bid to get that, become that regional semiconductor hub.
Correct.
How is that coming along, and who's putting that bid together?
Okay, well, the bid is, the good news is we have very good cooperation between Rochester and Buffalo, working together with Genesee County and other places. The bid is not ready yet because the bill hasn't passed, but they're discussing things with leading manufacturers, leading universities like UB, U of R, RIT, so many of those places, and they're starting to lay the groundwork for putting together a proposal. They won't submit any proposal, of course, until the law passes, but I'm confident it will pass this fall. And that's our goal, to become one of the tech hubs of the country. You know, in the 19th century, Buffalo, Rochester were at the cutting edge of new technologies, and it served them very well for decades and decades and decades. If we can do the same thing at the beginning of the 21st century, it bodes for a great future for this region. Yes? Sure.
Could you give us a little more details on the Latham-Rochester Stamp connection and the timetable that you're looking at?
So the Stamp facility will be up and operating in the next 16 months. So before the end of 2022, we will be operating and generating green hydrogen. Dan's facility in Rochester is actually, I guess, Dan, we're pretty much in 2 months, 3 months, we'll be up and operating. Lots of demolition work is going on. Lots of equipment's coming in. Lots of people are beginning to be trained. So that facility is really accelerating. That's in Henrietta.
Yeah, one of the things that's happened is they've gotten much more demand for their product.
Absolutely.
So the factory, the manufacturing in the Albany region isn't enough. And I called Andy and I said, come to Rochester, come to Stamp. Those are the places you should come. Stay in New York State. He had bids from Ohio and other places.
Yeah. The governor of Ohio called me.
Yeah.
And the senator called me. I listened to the senator.
Yeah. So it's an expansion of what they're doing in terms of manufacturing the fuel cell forklifts.
But it's even more than that, Senator.
Yeah.
You don't know. We're on-road vehicles now. We actually have large-scale stationary products, which actually provide fuel for electric vehicles from Amazon. So
Wow.
we have lots. We'll do 500 million in revenue this year.
Wow.
And next year we'll do
I remember when they were
750.
down and out and
Oh,
nearly ready to collapse. But one other thing, hydrogen can be used not just for forklifts and for these other vehicles, but for cars and trucks eventually. So this has a huge potential. It's the cleanest way to power things.
Does Henrietta plant more equipment focused?
Yes.
Yes.
More production focused?
Henrietta is both equipment and research and development. Dan was a research and developer at GM, and we have lots of ex-GM engineers and scientists who now work with Plug Power at the Henrietta facility.
And, you know, what they're making here is fuel. What they're making there is equipment, more or less. Is that a fair way to put it?
That's a good way to put it.
And one of the great things about Western New York is to make green hydrogen, you need green energy. Water power is the best, cheapest, greenest energy they are, and we have a lot of it because of Niagara Falls. So that's one of the reasons this is such a good location, and it's a reason that the chip fab companies are interested as well.
It's Samsung that you're trying to land this?
Well, I've talked to Intel. I've talked to the one that begins with an F. Micron. Sorry, Micron. And I've talked to Texas Instruments, who actually, the president comes from upstate New York. He went to Union College. But the one that seems to have the greatest focus here right now is Samsung.
Is there a synergy between your company and Samsung, or will it be just nice to have another tenant next door?
I think it'll be nice to have another 10. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'll answer that
Go
too.
ahead, Senator.
Yeah, there's a synergy in the sense when you attract top
Yes.
talent, it magnifies other top talent wanting to come.
You've got it.
So even though the people who make fuel cells and the people who make semiconductor chips, it's different, you become a region that attracts the kind of technologies you need, and it grows other industries too. But there's no direct link between the two.
Following up on Samsung, there was talk about Austin, Texas possibly getting a Samsung.
There's competition with Austin, Texas, with another location, but we're doing well, and Samsung has come here and they were impressed. They made one or two suggestions to make it more competitive, even more competitive, and we're working on those. Can't say what they are.
When were they here and what's the next meeting with them? It was last month.
They were here last month, and we'll be meeting with them. I call them regularly. I don't always talk to the CEO because A, he speaks Korean, and B, it's time zone issues. You know, it's night there and day here. But the head of U.S. is very, very accessible, and he's the one who's ultimately going to make the decision.